Hey, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about cash flow and why does it matter to you? If that's what you're here for, stick around. We're getting after it right now. Hey, everybody. For those of you kind of new to this channel, it's all about brokerages, EXP, what's the best brokerage for you, and kind of doing a deep dive into the numbers as to why. Today, I've got a special guest, my friend Jesse Dow.
Howdy.
And so if you ever want the straight, the good, the bad, the ugly, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. That way you're notified every time we put out a new video. And look, whenever you're ready, whenever you want to have a call, a session, just give me a call, send me a text message, shoot me an email. And look, today's going to be controversial. And so put your comments down there in the bottom. If you think this information is crazy, tell us, let us know. What we're doing is somehow trying to slam another brokerage. Let us know. Or if this is like eye-opening to you and you're like, wow, I never really knew that I should be evaluating my brokerage in this way, let us know. Give us a thumbs up. Give us that feedback. We love it. And also, it just helps get that information out to other agents and other people who are trying to make these decisions. So we really appreciate it. Today's format, we got a lot to unpack. And you're going to want to stick around to the end because there's going to be some critical pieces of information that you're going to want to see. Now, to help us unpack, I've asked Jesse here to be a host, if you will. I want him to him and I have reviewed some of this data, but he's going to ask some questions and I'm going to pull up publicly available information. I do not have my Series 7 license. I'm not a financial analyst. I did get my MBA from the University of Texas. Woohoo! And so I know how to, I know where to find on the Googling machine the investment decks and look at some of this. But we're going to lean heavily on the actual financial analysis of the Inman keynote speaker for this year and his blog that he does that just is all about the numbers and why they should matter to you as an agent about who's going to be your best business partner to help you manage your future. All right, I flattened my gums way too much. Jesse, do you want to kick it on over and get us started on this today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Carrie and I talk a lot about what's going on in the industry. And right now we're just coming off of Q2 earnings, releases from most of the brokerages. And, Carrie used to work with Compass Realty. And
Yep.
I work with a lot of agents that, are making moves in their real estate career, whether it's for better or for worse. People are always on the move. People are always looking at different things. And the one thing that I was asking Carrie was like, with everything that's going on in the tech, what they call the tech real estate industry, like why does this matter to real estate agents? And like, why should they care? Because as a real estate agent, you hear all these things going on, but you're like, okay, how does this really impact me? How does this impact my business? And how is this really going to impact my future? Because realistically, everything that we do today is going to create a direct result in the future. And so when we're building businesses, we want to hopefully make sure that we're building a really solid foundation. So the thing is if you're building on, let's say a house on a foundation that you think is concrete, where when you find out after you build this house, it's rubber or maybe non-existent, you're going to end up with some serious issues. So what Carrie's going to do today is he's going to really show us what's going down in the foundation to help you maybe make a more, informed decision, because it's just a regular old Joe that doesn't have a master's from Texas. As just a real estate agent asking questions, I find all this stuff very interesting because when you start digging into it, you start realizing who's really got the agent's best interest in mind versus who's got the, Wall Street investors' pockets in mind, who's got the CEO's interest in mind, and really how are they using these agents to accomplish their goal? Carrie said one thing that I thought was amazing was that, essentially what's going on is, they're running out of money, but they're telling people not to worry that they got more money. Essentially like going broke, but saying, hey, don't worry, I have this credit card or this personal line of credit. And what happened when everyone extended their HELOCs, home equity line of credits in 2004, 2005, 2006, when that money came due, there was no money there. And guess what happened? The whole market collapsed. So
Right.
Carrie's going to get into this. We're going to talk to you guys about some questions that everyone has. And I hope it sheds some light on the truth behind what's really going on, because I think it's super important that everyone makes informed decisions. And like I said, it's going to directly impact your future.
Okay, so again, this is not Carrie Fletcher saying this. I've got great buddies, great friends at Compass, a ton of great people there. This is just doing some financial analysis off of what is out there. So I'm going to show you this. I'm going to share screen and I'm going to pop back and forth a bunch here. But this is the Real Deal article. Compasses loses 101 million, no longer offer equity to new agents. The brokerage has lost 289 million, doom and gloom, right? And what I thought was most compelling out of this article is down at the bottom, it talks about the recruitment. Down at the bottom, it literally talks about Robert Refkin felt compelled to, let me pull it up. Yeah.
Can you close out the Real
Yeah,
Deal?
I'm
There you
going
go.
to, sorry.
Because
So
one thing I want to preface this with is that this week on the Q2 earnings call, or last week, they announced that effective immediately, they were cutting all recruiting incentives, no more cash, no more stock to be given to agents, and that they were going to save all of their money with the cutting of all the financial incentives and all of their technology spend.
Yeah. But even beyond that, he felt compelled that he had to write out to an email to all of their agents saying, Compass will not run out of cash. Okay.
Yep.
So this is key. Compass will not run out of cash. And in there, he even talks about the fact that they have, not only do they have this pile of cash that they're working off of from the IPO, but they have this revolving debt of $350 million. Okay. So all of that is public. My opinion is, and my interpretation of it is that's like, Jesse, if you came to me and you said, hey, and you and I are business partners, you started looking at the numbers and you said, ooh, we're burning through our cash and it looks like, we've got, I don't know, however many months. I'm not going to speculate. Looks like we've got however many months of cash. And if I came back to you and said, well, don't worry about that. We still have this American Express credit card that, they gave us. So we're good. We're not going to run out of cash. Well, nobody can really run a long-term business that way. So here's another key point is so investors are like, okay, cash, you've got the credit and you've got credit, and they're telling the agents not to worry about it. This is their public information. I'm not saying this, but their long-term strategy to getting cash flow positive is really critical for the agents and the agents that are in it. Hold me out here a second while I pull this up. So this is not in their main slide deck. It's in their appendices. I'm going to pull up and share this slide. But this is, and I actually got this analysis and this information from Mike Del Preetz, and we'll leave a link into some of his videos and some of his analysis because we're leaning heavy on it. But basically, how they're going to get better from a cash flow standpoint is by renegotiating and changing the terms and taking a larger chunk of the pot of that commission pool. So we expect revenue, less commission, as a percentage of revenue to improve from 19 blah, blah, blah to 23.8 in 2025. And this is from their Q1 earnings update. And you look at this bridge and you're like, okay, how are they going to do that? Except for this projected 2% of adjacent services, every other deck here is all about splits, fees, agent tier mix, which means basically they're going to have a smaller portion of agents at a higher tier, at a higher split, and more at a lower level where they're not getting as much splits. So they're projecting basically, rather than us getting better to improve, whatever through selling our technology or whatever, what they're communicating, this is page 22, you can look it up. I'm not doing it. Slide 22, their revenue bridge to bridge the gap. And they're expecting to be cash flow positive by 2025 is by changing this mix. So they're telling the investment community that we're going to get better cash flow because we're going to be better at negotiating our contracts with our agents between 2021 and 2025. But for me, they're basically taking money out of my pocket. I can't plan if I was in this environment, and this is a conversation that I had before leaving, was it's very difficult to plan my business, what sort of money I'm going to invest, what sort of revenue I can expect in the future, if I don't have a stable contract. If I don't have a stable expectation that says, if I do my business this way, if I increase my business that way, I can have some expected returns in the future. And if you don't know what your expected returns in the future are going to be, you don't know where to make your investments in your business, whether it should be expanding into YouTube, doing more marketing. And again, that's just my opinion. I'll tell you what's public information and what's my opinion. And that's purely just my opinion. It was frustrating as an agent to have 1 year, 2 year contracts and spend so much time and energy renegotiating splits. What's a split? What's an incentive? What you would have to pay back? Blah, blah, blah. Jesse, the story when I joined EXP blew my mind. I don't know if you want to tell that one or not when it came to contracts and
Yeah. So a couple of things to do with contracts, which I thought was real interesting that you were saying. So essentially, and we'll talk about the contract thing that you're referencing here in a second, but like one thing that you were telling me is that, and I was so blown away by this, as I said, okay, let's say cause I'm like, well, if the agent just wants to leave when their contract expires, can't they just leave? And Carrie's like, no, well, they can, but then they're gonna have to pay back whatever they've received as an incentive or whatever it was to get them there. So I'm like, okay, so you signed this deal to come over, your contract is good for 1 year, and now your 1 year contract's up and you're like, peace, I'm out. And then he's like, no, they can come after you to get their stuff back that was in the contract. And I was like, that blows my mind. So currently right now, Compass is saying that they're having good agent retention, retaining 90% of their agents, which isn't great agent retention in my opinion. But the reason, in my personal belief, is that the agents aren't leaving is because they're handcuffed. It isn't because they're willingly staying. And so
yeah.
when Carrie talked about when they were coming over, I've never came from an environment where you negotiate like real hardcore negotiation contracts. Yeah, you can talk about the split, but I've always come from like smaller boutique, like Keller Williams style brokerages. So when him and his wife asked me if they could get a copy of the contract up front, and I sent them my contract.
No, we didn't ask. You volunteered. You was like, "Hey, I'll show you my contract," and we were like, "That's worthless because who says that's what they're going to offer us, and what we're going to get, and our contract is probably going to be completely different." And then you were like, then you jumped in and said, "No, everybody's got the same contract from the top to the bottom. This is what it is. There's no negotiating, renegotiating. It's a stable and it doesn't change
Yeah.
time to time, right?"
Yeah. And just so like, if you are a brokerage owner or a team lead, is there are some things like there's cap deferrals. Like if you've already paid in your cap and you're 6 months in, like EXP can give you some stuff here and there. But for the most part, yeah, everything is always the same. That's the thing I love about EXP is like, it's very agent focused. Like they always talk about, all these brokerages always say like, we're a profit center, we're agent centric, we're agent focused and all this and that. And it's great. They can say that up front, but when you deep dive into it, it starts painting a different picture. And it's wild to me. And this is the thing is like, I've always said, like, our contract at EXP, it's a independent contractors agreement. And the thing that's really telling is they say like, if you leave the brokerage, they'll give you access to your KV Core account for 30 days. You get access to everything for 30 days, but also you're allowed to take your KV Core CRM with you if you leave, if you choose to. We were just on another call and this agent said, he was super loyal to his broker. He was there for 6 years, had tearing him apart to make this decision to leave. And when he went in there and told him he was leaving, they deactivated his license within less than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, we all have these loyalties to people that we think that they're loyal to us. And then the reality is is the minute you tell them that you're moving on to better your career, they shut you down and they look at you as dollar figures. And it's all telling right here when you look at the
Yeah.
financial reports. And I was just on the EXP quarterly earnings call, and there was like some people in there, saying, oh yeah, saying this, saying that, and this and that. And it's like, if you look at the brokerage and the leadership and the things like that, and the things they do, is it really does benefit, it is truly benefiting to the agents. Like EXP says all the time, we're a growth company, we're not a profit company. That's something very
Yeah.
telling. And the thing too is, like you were showing on your slides there, is it shows like the burn rate of like all the tech companies, they're far exceeding their earnings. And
Yeah.
on there it shows EXP, and it's like EXP couldn't even spend their way to debt if they wanted to. Like it would
Right.
be
I'm going to get to that slide. I'm going to the whole thing of EXP is a growth company, not a profit company. Well, they're a highly profitable growth company. Let me just share
yeah.
this one slide here real quick, and then I'll get to those other slides shortly. Okay, so this is the slide in a nutshell, right? So look at that bottom line, unaffiliated debt, 0, 0, 0, no debt, right? The car's paid off, the house is paid off, the kids' college loans are paid off, zero debt. And imagine a world in which you live in which you have zero debt. Well, then that means all that money, all that cash that you're earning, you get to reinvest back into your business, which they do. But it is a free cash flow. So you're talking about operating cash flow from operations, 181 million in 2021. We've already surpassed that, 220. So all of 2021, right? All of 2021, which everybody knows is this crazy record year, right? And 2022 is supposed to be this, we're shrinking, we're doing whatever. Cash flow from operations has already significantly surpassed cash flow from operations of last year, right? And so, cash and cash equivalents sitting at about $135 million, in the bank. So it's just every quarter, every year, month in, month out, making a good profit and a good return. And that's why their stocks have started to do things like dividends. And who's the largest stockholders of EXP? The agents, right? So they're getting dividends back off that. But I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and then I'm going to pop over to that other slide. I think this is the one that you really were talking about.
Yeah, the one thing I would also mention too, you were talking about Glenn Sanford, the CEO of EXP, the founder, is still a major shareholder. And so that's another big difference between other publicly traded companies, such as like Compass, is like when you're answering to Wall Street versus doing what's right for the brokerage and the agents, you don't have to make dramatic cuts, as in cutting out all agent spend, cutting out all your technology resources, and those types of things. So
Mike Delpreet, and he was the Inman keynote speaker. I would encourage you can go to his site and you can find his keynote speech. It's really good. It talks about technology companies coming in, and it does some comparison. But he decided to just because of the shrinking, because everything going down, he really wanted to do this analysis, his words, not mine, of EXP's business model advantage. Right there. It's all about how much money per transaction, how efficient is the agency. And you've got EXP sitting down here at $691 a transaction. And look at the rest of these: Realty, Redfin, Compass, Douglas Elliman. And why does it matter? And then, while it's publicly listed peers, right? Operating expenses for Q1, EXP versus Compass. Transactions, Q1, EXP versus Compass. This was even before the $45 million loss on Compass, and this was before all of that was announced. And the bottom line, and what it basically says is his predictions, why he was looking at it, actually bore true when you looked at the results. With limited ability to affect revenue in a shrinking market, brokerages will be forced to cut costs And in this environment, brokerages like EXP have a distinct advantage of not only, and I'm going to get to this. I'm relatively new to real estate, but one of the things that everybody tells me is whenever these markets contract, whenever these markets go down, that's when when you separate the wheat from the chaff. That's when you're going to have a bunch of people hanging up their license and going and doing something else. That's when you're going to see a lot of shakeup in brokerages, and EXP is uniquely positioned to not only weather in this storm, but really accelerate their growth as other brokerages out there are having to cut costs, trim, renegotiate contracts, try to up their percentage of the revenue pie, increase their franchising fee, increase their monthly operating expense costs that people have to have. They're going to have to do a lot of things to survive or continue to grow, whereas EXP is uniquely positioned to take advantage of a downturn market.
Well, the interesting thing too is that you mentioned at the beginning was that you said this was before the Q2 earnings came out, where they burned through $41 million in cash. And just to put that into retrospect, last year, Q2 and Q2 2021, that was their the only year that they generated cash flow, which was $41 million. So literally, if you take a look at where they went from last year to this year, it's a negative $82 million delta, which is insane. So when you take, like, let's just say on average, they burn through $40 million a quarter. That's in 1 year is $160 million. That's not that far away from, being in a very bad position. And the reality is they burnt more money Q1 this year, Q1 2022 than 2021. They burnt more money in Q2 2022 than they burnt in 2021. So it just keeps going, more burn, more burn, more burn. And guess what's happening? The market is not getting any better. It's getting worse. So where's this money going to come from? That's the $1 million question.
$1 million question is there's only one place for it to come from. There's only one place for it to come from. And that's, go back to that slide previous, is there's only one way, and it's speculation on my part. I can't say that,
Well, I can.
I can't say that. That's speculation on my part. I apologize. That's unfair of me. I don't know. I'm sure they've got a great plan, but based off of their presentation that they presented to the investors, I do know that one of their key strategies is renegotiating the contract. And also that's analysis directly from Mike Del Preet as well.
Well, they call it's kind of like the Biden inflation program. It's their cost reduction program is what they're dubbing it. It's like taking steps to have a positive free cash flowing system into the future is what they keep calling it.
Yeah. So this is Mike. These are Mike's numbers, projected cash burn and cash flow. Like he said, this is a $45 million hit that's worse than what he was anticipating.
The one thing that I think was real interesting too, and I don't know if you have access to those slides, but actually I think it was in his presentation for Inman, which showed essentially in 2019 where Compass, EXP, and Redfin were all pretty close as far as agent count goes. And the Realty brand was way up here. And then you had EXP, Compass all down here.
Yeah, I've got that. I've got that slide, and it's based off of through Q1. So it doesn't show Q2, and I'll show you where you can get the numbers and you can update this, but I'll actually show that one. It's not about it wasn't about the agent count. It was about
transactions.
Right, yeah. It was about, revenue. It was about top line revenue. Okay. Quarterly brokerage revenue, right? So you've got Realty, Compass, EXP, and Redfin. And you can see here, Realty has been the big bad boy. And then anybody who's got friends at Compass or an Instagram account, at the end of Q1 2021, we all got that social media blast of EXP is now the largest, brokerage by revenue, thing, right? So they went Q1, Q2 timeframe. Well, you can see how there's been sharp declines, and this is his analysis felt like there was sharp declines from Realogy and Compass, where as he was like surprised, it's like, oh, EXP is remaining relatively flat as the other two are, kind of coming back, crashing back to earth. So I don't have all the numbers, but I can say, or I don't have the numbers right here with me, but I can say that I think EXP grew. I don't know if they overtook Compass or Realogy yet, but that
EXP?
gap, yeah, EXP, but that
Yeah, they
gap
did.
closed. They did this quarter?
Well,
Okay.
it was in transactional volume. I don't know about the financial piece.
Yeah, transactional volume for a while, EXP has had an advantage, but as far as top line revenue, we were behind. So basically, Compass has always been touted as this luxury top end, only in the most high end markets. So they've always had a higher transaction revenue per transaction, right? Revenue per agent than EXP. But I think at the end of this Q2, EXP will have either more closed this gap on revenue or surpassed it. But when you match this type of revenue with this kind of cost model, it's revenue and cost. So here's the cost comparison, right? And here's the revenue comparison. So there's a huge difference in profitability without being at the expense of the agent, right? This model is awesome because you can remain profitable, you can continue to grow without it being on the backs of the agent.
Well, I think the one thing about EXP that I love, and that maybe people that are watching maybe don't know, is that EXP's commitment to the agents is that they give back 50% of the revenue to the agents. So when people talk about agent incentives and things like that, it's like EXP isn't giving back 50% of the profit. They're not giving back 50% of anything but the pure revenue that comes in from the company. So it's a pretty fixed model. And the reason that they are allowed to do this and they can is because they don't physically own brick and mortar offices for EXP. However, they do own a franchise model called Success.
Yep.
And in that model, there is small brick and mortar training facilities, which I think is interesting. The thing also that Compass announced too is that they would no longer be expanding into markets. So,
Yeah.
they got a lot of cash up front. They spent a lot of cash really fast. And, that's how they built their brokerage.
So I just a quick story, because I've got friends there. I'm very, very close with. I consider them brothers. A friend of mine texted me a picture. Oh, we're doing a poker night at the office, right? And so some people got together, and then he was harassing me. Of course, is like, we're not, real friends, real people, not some virtual, stuff, right? And my response to him was like, "That sounds great. How much did it cost you?" how, how much out of your pocket did that office and the lights and the rent and the overhead and everything, how much did you have to contribute to have that fancy office where you could go meet with people that you may or may not like and have poker? I told him, I said, "Come on over. We can have poker at my house any night you want. Just come, just come on over." So,
yeah, I mean, EXP does run a virtual model, but I have my license in 3 states and they do plenty of in-person events.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Plenty, without having to pay to have that brick and mortar office, the fancy nameplate in the whatever corner thing. So
exactly. I've never had anybody in my life call me and say, "Hey, because you work for this brokerage, I'm hiring you."
I know.
I've had to go the other way though, where they said they weren't hiring me because of the brokerage I worked at. And unfortunately, that was when I was at Keller Williams.
Yeah. Well, hey, I know, first of all, guys, if y'all have stuck around this long and you haven't put in a comment down at the bottom, like you're crazy, or man, this is great information, shoot me the link. Give us a like button. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know how we're doing. And look, if you want to set up a Zoom call with Jesse or myself, just give us a call, shoot us a text message. I think we've got Calendly links that we'll probably put down in the bottom of this, and
Sure.
just hop on over, and I'd love to be in contact with you.
Absolutely.